Mark, what are some of the most common or concerning ways that social media has a negative impact on our mental health?
Wow, that is such a big topic. So, first of all, social media strips you of your personal respect for yourself. It it erodes your ability to have perspective. Let me make my point. If you today want to know about any star, any movie star, you can go to social media and YouTube and you can find pro and con videos on that star. You can find out their net worth. You can find out everything they've done bad and good with their lives. And there's absolutely no privacy. That person's completely in a glass house. So the problem, though, is with all of that is now you can compare yourself to that person. And what we now do, and we all do this, is social media has now allowed us all to become dependent on seeing ourselves against what we're judging ourselves with, which is usually other people. And when you constantly are putting yourselves on this scale, you tend not to be happy because you're looking at yourself as, am I good enough? And social media, unfortunately, has stripped people of initiative because then you go, well, if I'm not going to be that movie star and I'll never get those breaks, then why try? So more people are actually giving up. It's so ironic, getting angry. They might be the people that are actually, commenting negatively on a lot of social media posts because they've given up trying to become something great themselves. So now they become a social critic. And that, of course, feeds the whole narrative of how social media starts to perpetuate itself. And then those people start to feel better about themselves, making negative comments about people they don't like. And then other people comment and gives those people that have just made a negative comment a comment, and that creates a dopamine hit for both sides. So the commenter and the commentee both get a dopamine hit. And before you know it, everyone is enjoying actually commenting against each other because actually it raises dopamine.
Right.
When
Create
you think about it in that way, gee, go
right.
ahead.
You talk a lot about the concept of funnels and how people can be essentially an echo chamber. So even from the public perception, if a post on social media has a million comments and a million views and a million likes or whatever, obviously we know that doesn't represent the majority of society. But because people see those numbers, they tend to think everybody's talking about this, everybody feels this way, everybody's saying this on the internet. And it creates a very interesting echo chamber. So then the people who do have, let's say, the courage to comment and actually interact with their ideas, again, you're funneling people into a very interesting echo chamber that are basically, like you said, creating these dopamine responses where people are able to hide behind their keyboard and have a debate with people. But it's not the same as a human interaction where you have the back and forth and you have the human empathy for who you're speaking to and a goal to understand and come to solutions. You have time to think, you have time to craft your response and sleep on it and be angry and talk to other people and research. So it creates almost like an artificial dialogue, which again tends to separate people but also divide them if that's the purpose of that conversation. People are not necessarily there for solutions, they're there to argue and hide behind their artificial keyboard.
Absolutely. We become superheroes in our mind when we're confronted in reality by an individual. Let's just pretend I'm having words with Kim over an issue. Let's do abortion. So I'm going
Okay.
after Kim on abortion, right? And we're on two different spectrums of this, right? So now I suddenly meet Kim. I don't think I could, if I met Kim, because I know Kim very well, perpetuate in person my argument with her. Oh, I could do it behind a keyboard, but if I actually was in front of Kim, I would crumble because it wouldn't be worth it. I'd see her smile, especially when she would mock me and go, "Why are you so amped up?" Hey, you don't have to get so amped up about stuff, you know? Life's not so hard. I mean, but this is my point. You don't realize that what you are experiencing in your mobile device is completely artificial until you're confronted with reality. So when you're confronted with reality, you don't have the facts. So when you suddenly say, these are my facts, what you're really saying is, I'm too lazy to really explore the real facts because I've got a real terrible fact to offer you all. Real information, real facts hurt. Real facts are not convenient. Real facts tend to be neutral. In other words, they don't tend to amp up our side or another side. In fact, most facts, if you look at both political parties, go straight down the middle. If you look at where, where everything really ends up. And this is what's so funny. We're so extreme in this country, black and white. And yet the truth is, we all agree with each other. The differences between American people is so small for the echo chamber and the amount of hate. It's actually startling. I mean, are you kidding me? The abortion issue and the border issue. We have the Democrats and Republicans running on two issues right now. And then they're also running on who's the better American. Is 50% of the Americans hooligans because they're mega, or are they good people? So we're basically saying, is 50% of the country good or bad? Now, how did we get here? Elections weren't supposed to divide us. Elections were supposed to be something that we did because we wanted to elect a better management to manage the country. But now we're actually electing now our daddy.
The interesting thing about a lot of people's bias, for example, with politics, but this applies to a lot, is that there's the inherent assumption that if they see you, for example, talking about a certain topic, many people will automatically assume that just because A, therefore X, Y, and Z. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm allowed to, for example, want our country to be protected and also care about the humans, the Mexicans and the Americans and everyone on every side. I'm allowed to actually have a holistic perspective about this, and you're allowed to have your opinion. But just because I think A does not mean X, Y, and Z, and it definitely doesn't put us necessarily at odds. So I enjoy having dialogue and discussions with people who disagree, as long as they're willing to explain their opinion and even maybe back up or give basis as to why they think a certain way, and certainly why they're accusing me of thinking a certain way without understanding, right? But what's interesting is that, to the topic of, we're fed so much information in social media and technology that we don't necessarily dissect. A lot of people have a lot of passion about a topic they may even be attacking you with in some regards. But when you ask them to unpack that for you, you'll find it's a lot of emotion, but not always a lot of factual basis. Again, I'm willing to agree to disagree with people, but if you're so emotional and you come at me attacking certain topics, especially things I consider very important, for example, advocating about child trafficking in America, you're allowed to be, let's say, disagree with me about certain things. But if you assume that because I care about that, therefore I am of a certain political affiliation and I automatically must worship certain Lord and Savior political people, that's incorrect. But it's also so incredibly divisive. It can remove people from acknowledging certain topics because they think it's a political talking point. So, for example, children being trafficked in America, that is absolutely not a political talking point. That is an objective truth. You can disagree. That doesn't make it untrue. Now, if you don't have lived experience, if you don't have tangible knowledge, if you're mad because the screens you watch told you that something is true or not true, that's a dangerous frame of mind that can, to your point, divide and disunite us, and divided we fall.